Hello, Southern California, and welcome to this week's edition of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're so glad you're joining us today. We're going to be talking about the fact that for today's modern retiree, the retirement landscape has really changed, and it is not your parents' or grandparents' retirement anymore. Now, a lot of people lament this. They wish they could rewind time and have it be simpler. Is that even possible? Are there strategies that you can implement even today to give you more of that retirement that previous generations experienced? That's what we're going to be exploring today. Tom, my friend, so good to be here with you as always. How are you this week?
We're going to talk about change.
I know, right?
I mean, my
the
goodness.
only constant in life, right?
I know. My wife tells me all the time, she said, I hate change, you know, and stuff. And a lot of people do that. And it seems the older you get, the more you like the routine. You just like for things to stay the same.
Set in your ways, right?
And the older we get, the more things change all the time at a much more rapid pace. It's amazing.
It is amazing, for sure. Well, I'm curious, what comes to the top of your mind when you think about just how much retirement has changed for today's pre-retirees and retirees?
Well, I think there's a case to be built there that it goes back to the fact that we've lost our pensions. You know, in 1970, 63% of every American adult was covered by a pension, either by their own pension at work or a spouse. Maybe they even stayed home, but they were and did not work outside the home, but they were covered by a pension. Now, only 16%, 1 out of 6, almost 2/3 back in 1970, 1 out of 6 right now is all that's covered by pensions. So it leads to several articles, like in December, I think it was the 24th of December, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal. Now put these two together. The Wall Street Journal did not put these two together, but they said that people loved their pensions because it paid them a guaranteed flow of income for the rest of their life. And then about 3 weeks later, in January of 2025, just this year, they came out with another article, and they said the biggest concern people have in retirement now is having a constant, steady flow of sufficient income. Why? Because pensions don't provide that anymore for most people. They're gone. They vanished over a period of time.
And so again, it's that income. People want to know that they're going to have that check coming in every single month. People are, you know, we know that the number one fear for most retirees is outliving their money. I think having that steady pension and what previous generations experienced really helped solve that problem for folks. It gave folks that peace of mind. And so in the absence of that, there's so much more that has to be done. And with the invention of the 401k and all these workplace retirement plans, really the onus was put on us as the employee, and no instruction manuals came with these accounts, right?
Not at all.
And there was no instruction on how to invest the money, but even more importantly, there's no instruction manual on how to then take that lump sum and turn it into income.
You know, there is some good news though. I just read an article, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, and in that article it talked about that the Congress has made it now mandatory that companies sign people up for the 401k in many states. Not all the states yet, but in many states. And for the first time ever, 50% of all adults in America are enrolled in some kind of retirement plan. It just crested, they call the article the tipping point, because it just went over 50%. Now, let's delve back into that history, though. You know, they had the pensions, and in the late 70s, they came out with a defined contribution plan. The pensions were the defined benefit plan. You knew what benefit you were going to get.
Right.
You know, you retired when you were 65, like my grandfather, and he got Social Security, and nobody talked about it being insolvent or not able to pay out 100% at that time. He got his pension, and he got his gold watch and a party, okay? And he rode off into the sunset at 65. Well, for a while there's a generation or part of a generation that had the pension and the 401k. And they were pretty healthy 401ks because when the companies first came out with them, I don't know if it was a trick. I don't know if they intended it this way, but for a while there, they were matching 10%, 8%. It was a huge match. So you put in 8%, they match 8%. That's free money.
Yeah.
I mean, people ask me sometimes, should I contribute to my 401k? And I ask them, I say, well, how much do they match? Well, they match 4%. Well, and I say, you're turning down 4% free money if you don't contribute.
Exactly. You want to at least get the match, right?
At least get the match.
Yes.
I mean, that shows you, though, there's no instruction manual with them.
Yeah.
There's no, this is how to do it. You know, people see it as a cost. They see it as something that they're losing because they're not getting that money, you know, in their paycheck, and they see it as something they're giving up, and they shouldn't see it that way at all. They should see that as an investment for retirement. And so the defined contribution, and by the way, most companies don't match 10% anymore or 8%. Some still do. In fact, the number 2 most popular match is Zippo, nada, nothing. They don't match anything when you put money in. So to your point, as you clearly said, the onus for putting money into that 401k, it's on our back.
Yeah.
It's on us, and we have to do it. So that's why it's not your parents' retirement plan anymore. The pensions are gone. Social Security may diminish, and you're on your own. I call it the yo-yo plan.
I was going to say, I know you always bring that up when we talk, right?
I know. You're on the yo-yo plan, and there's no instructions on the yo-yo plan as to how to really build that 401k.
Yep, and yo-yo again stands for
you're on your own. You
right?
got it.
So
wait.
Oh, go
My
for it.
favorite saying.
Yes.
It's not your lump sum in retirement, it's your
income.
It's your income.
Yep.
The income is the most important thing. Just like this Wall Street Journal January article said, that's what people miss more than anything else. Do I have sufficient income? Here's what it'll do. Here's what it will do. My grandparents, first of all, they didn't know how long they were going to live because we're living a lot longer than we did 2 generations ago. But what sufficient income in your retirement plan will do for you is this. When you're in your 60s, if you have built a plan, not just the lump sum that you're going to draw from every year, but if you've built a plan that has a sufficient income flow coming from your social, if you do have a pension, from rental income, from annuities, because this article went in to talk about how that fixed indexed income annuities are so more popular now. Even though all of the bad publicity about annuities, that's the only thing that's going to pay you, like a pension and social, a guaranteed income for as long as you live. But if you put that together in a plan when you're in your 60s, that will give you that contentment, that sigh to say, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to live off of in my 80s because my income plan, we call it your paycheck, is in place. So therefore, I can go and do my bucket list. While I'm healthy, while I'm in my go-go years, I can go and enjoy Europe. I can go and enjoy the islands. I can sleep over the water in the little huts and stuff and enjoy that. They're not huts. They're really, really nice, okay? I've been there. You can do that in your 60s without worrying yourself to death about running out of money in your 80s if in your retirement blueprint you have a solid income plan that makes sure you're going to have what we work together with our clients at Mosley Wealth Management to do, to make sure that you have sufficient income coming in for the rest of your life. Do you have a plan like that, or do you have a hope strategy? I hope my 401k lasts. I hope the market doesn't hit it so desperately that I run out of money when I'm 79 or 78 or 81, and I have to live just on a fixed income from Social Security after that. If you want one of those, you've got to reach out to get one of those. We can put one of those together for you.
Tom, thank you. I would add that, I think for folks watching, we know you probably have retirement accounts. You have those statements. Those in of themselves are not a plan. Those are critical pieces of the plan. But to Tom's point, you need a blueprint to help you put all this together so that you can be confident knowing where your income is going to come from for the rest of your life. And so that's why the invitation is for you, for no cost, no charge, no obligation, to pick up the phone, call the number you see on the bottom of your screen, and schedule your time to come in and meet with one of the all-star advisors from Moseley Wealth Management and have them build you your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. The number to call is 866-709-1462. Or if you'd rather connect online, if you simply pull out your smartphone, you can open up the camera app, click and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Moseley Wealth Management will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary meeting that way as well. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Tom Moseley with Moseley Wealth Management. If you have amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. We specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and much more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your portfolio review and tax analysis. What if there was a way to shield your retirement funds from market losses while achieving market gains? Imagine the potential to ride the stock markets up, securing those gains and avoiding losses when the markets go down. These investments could only move in one direction, up, not down. This investment tool isn't a dream, it's a reality, and we can show you how this solution could work for you. If you're serious about retirement income protection, call Moseley Wealth Management to arrange a discussion with one of our financial retirement advisors to determine if this strategy suits you and your financial goals. Secure your gains, avoid losses. Don't miss this opportunity.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, where today Tom and I are discussing the fact that for today's modern retiree, it's not your parents' or your grandparents' retirement anymore. The landscape has really changed. With that comes a lot more challenges for folks who are retiring today, but the good news is there are some tools in place to help you navigate those challenges successfully. And of course, we need to talk about the fact that we are living longer than we ever have before. I mean, it used to be someone might work until age 62 and pass away as early as age 65, right? Yep. But now we have this 20, 30, even 40-year period of time. If you think about it, that's the entire length of someone's working career that now needs to be planned for in retirement. And that's why we have to be confident that our money is going to last as long as we do.
It's one of the stresses that's on Social Security. Because when they started Social Security in 1935, the average American male lived to 61 years and 8 months. Now that was knocked down a little bit because we had just come through World War I at that point, but we've had World War II and several other wars that have taken a lot of lives of a lot of young men. But the average American male lived to 61 years and 8 months, and guess what? If you live to 62, we're going to give you Social Security for a couple of years, for 3 years, for 4 years, for 5 years. So if you look at it, it's like we're talking about this was not your parents, okay? Your parents had the pensions in much more prominence than we do. They had strong Social Security. They had better savings in many times than we do, and they didn't live as long. So you know, all of the dominoes were falling in their favor. With us, we've got a shaky Social Security, a diminishing pension plan, and we've just got this length of time that we don't know how long we're going to live, but it could be 30, 40, 50 years even in retirement. People are living into the three digits, into the 100s, and it's really, really strong. So what do you need to do? Well, that's where, at the end of the last segment, we were talking about annuities. A lot of people are running to annuities, not the variable annuities that everybody hates because they're in the market, they're very expensive. The insurance companies don't hate those. They love those because they make a lot of money.
There's so many fees in them, yep.
There's so many fees, you're right, all over the
Financial
place.
termites, as we like to call those, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But those fixed indexed annuities, now I had read a statistic from LIMRA that said that there was $125 billion went into fixed indexed annuities in 2019, but in 2023 it had jumped up to 386, and then you and I were discussing before the show, what stat did you see?
For 2024, it was over $432 billion that went into annuity sales in 2024 alone. That's a lot of money. Not all those people can be wrong, right? I mean, that's the reality.
Well, you got to look at what they don't have now that they did have then, and what can replace it. We don't have that pension, which, by the way, people say, I hate annuities, but you love pensions? Huh? You say, I hate annuities, but you love your Social Security? Hello? You know, talk to me there. Because, and people are running to the fixed indexed annuity when they give them a chance. Some of those are good for future income. If you're single, you may need it just to supplement your Social Security. If you're married, you may need it when one spouse passes away and you lose the lower Social Security. A lot of those fixed indexed annuities right now that are income producers, if it's paying you out $30,000 a year, some of them have an activities of daily living rider that if you hit a point where you can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, it will double the payout for 5 years. And let's say, I know your husband's name is Charlie.
Yes.
Let's say you have one and Charlie is still married to you forever, okay? And you reach a point that you're still okay, but Charlie hits where he can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, but you have your IRA money in a fixed indexed annuity. Well, some of these will pay for Charlie. It'll double for 5 years if Charlie hits 2 of the 6 activities of daily living.
And needs long-term care.
And needs some kind of long-term type coverage. It's not actually long-term care. They tell us not to say that it's long-term care, but it's actually broader in scope than long-term care in that if you just hit 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, you don't have to go in a nursing home, and you can use it for home health care. You can use it for assisted living. You can use it for all kinds of things. So that's why it went from $125 billion just 6 years ago to now over $400 billion last year, and who knows what it'll go to this year.
No, for sure. And it's awesome to see that there are resources and solutions that are helping to fill that gap, as we talked about, that this generation isn't blessed to have pensions like previous generations did in the same quantity, but yet it's almost like you can create a personal pension for yourself, if you will. You know, this ties in beautifully to the other thing that we wanted to address, which is the reality of inflation. And we know that that has been in the conversation a lot over the last couple of years. But it's also been said that inflation is not an equal opportunity offender. And this is especially true for retirees. I'd love for you to explain that statement because I have my own thoughts on why that saying is true. What do you say about that?
Well, I say, what do retirees do that in a larger volume than other people in society do? They travel, okay? They take airplane rides sometimes. They take cruises, and they eat eggs, okay? If you understand what I'm saying, they don't, and not just the whites or the yolks, you know what I mean? They eat the whole egg many times.
The whole enchilada, yes.
Right, but many of the things and inflation is not an equal opportunity, offender because it offends different people different ways. A lot of those things are much higher because of fuel cost and the rise in cost of energy and those kind of things. So the impact, your inflation number is really different than the natural national inflation number. So what is your inflation impact? And you got to look at that and say, yours may be hit a lot higher. So inflation then comes in. in. So how do you deal with inflation? Well, you look for things that have cost of living adjustments. If you still have a pension and it's a government pension, chances are if you still have a pension, you have a high likelihood that it's a government pension. Well, generally you have a cost of living adjustment on that pension, okay? So when in that cost of living adjustment, you're going to get 2%, maybe 3% every single year. If you don't, it's flat, inflation's going to hurt you. So how are you going to do it? Well, we recently had a client came in, and this client had $1.4 million.
Okay.
They had a pension, a small pension. It wasn't a large pension, but they had 2 Social Securities, and they had a fear that maybe Social Security would go down 20 to 25% in 8 or 9 years, like the government says it might. So building that together in a plan, we put not 1, but 2 of those annuities in place, because they're probably never going to need that $400,000, but we put a $200,000 annuity in place and a second identical $200,000 annuity in place. And here's the plan. As they grow along, as they get older, as inflation grows. Now that may be 3 years, it may be 5 years, but our plan is to then go to that first $200,000 annuity, pick one of them, and turn on the income flow from that. And that gives them then a guaranteed increase in their income for the rest of their life. They still have the second that is for later, in case 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, I call it another faucet, just to turn on another flow of income from that second annuity. Now, they had the assets to do that. You may have the assets. You may not have the assets to do that, but if you don't, we can build a plan for you. But you've got to consider inflation, because unlike maybe our parents, our grandparents faced inflation, but our parents maybe didn't until just recently, but you may have to face it 2, 3, 4 times in a 30-year retirement, and you better have built into your plan the way you're going to face and solve the inflation dilemma.
And I love that with each retirement blueprint you build, this is a cornerstone of the conversation. A lot of financial advisors out there aren't even having the inflation conversation with their clients. Heck, a lot of them aren't even talking about building an income plan for your retirement. But again, that is the cornerstone of every complimentary retirement blueprint that Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management build for folks, and they would love to build one for you. That number to call to claim yours is 866-709-1462, or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code, and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome to this Right on the Money moment with Tom Mosley. My name is Cynthia 𝗲𝗏, and Tom, I have a very important question for you. What is happening on the horizon with Social Security? So many questions surrounding Social Security right now.
So many people are calling it now social insecurity, because they've been telling us for about 10, 12, 15 years that in 2033, it used to be like an eon away, they've been telling us that they're going to have to lower the payouts on Social Security to about 77 to 79%. Well, it was a little bit of a shock treatment about 4 months ago or so when a big article came out in a national publication and said that's going to cost the average American person $8,000 to $17,000 per year. So a married couple would be $16,000 to $34,000. So here's what I would say about Social Security. You can't control Social Security. You can't control Congress. You can't even vote the people in that you want to do what you want them to do. But what you can do is you can build a contingent plan that if I do lose $16,000 to $34,000 in my Social Security payout, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to make up that difference? What happens in the world, you can't control, but what happens in your world, you need to be making preparation with your financial planner, making sure that you are addressing that potentiality that you could lose a big chunk of your Social Security. And the question is not, will it happen or could it happen? But if it happens, what are you going to do about it?
People have to be prepared, Tom, and you're offering such sage guidance right now. You truly are.
You have to.
Thank you for watching Right on the Money Moment. My name is Cynthia 𝗲𝗏 with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, where today we've been discussing the reality that it is not our parents' or grandparents' retirement anymore. The landscape has changed. We've already gone through a lot of the different challenges that today's modern retiree is facing. We want to be able to help you navigate through those successfully. And Tom, I think this brings us to this question that I know that you are asked all the time. I would say the number one question that you get when folks come in to meet with you is, can I go ahead and retire? And really at the heart of that question, what folks are asking is, am I going to be okay? We need to talk about that. It's assessing if someone can go ahead and retire, meaning do they have enough money and therefore will they be okay, right? That's kind of all grouped into that one loaded question. First question we ask is, what's your major reason for coming to see us today? And they hand their stuff to us across the table and they say, can we retire? Okay? Can we afford to retire? That's what a financial advisor can ask for you. Now, you can take a shot. You can look at your lump sum and assume that it's going to work, assume that it's going to be there. But what we're going to do, rather than just say that engine sounds like it's running okay, we're going to raise that hood. We're going to look inside that engine. We're going to see, what are your income sources? Social Security. Do you have a pension? Do you have enough guaranteed flow of income that your budget is met? If not, how are we going to build and fill that gap? How are we going to provide that income as inflation hits you through the years? How are you going to look at your investments? Because what's your risk level? What's your risk tolerance? What's going to allow you to sleep peaceably at night with a risk level in the market, particularly with a market that is as volatile as it is right now, okay? And then taxes, that's an issue. We were told that this 401k would save you money on tax, and it did. And now the piper's coming home, okay? Now it's coming home and you're going to have to start paying tax on that. And then your health care. How are you going to deal with your health care? And then your legacy. Not just amassing this and having enough for you, but passing that along to your heirs. That's what we do when we build you a retirement blueprint. Are you ready to retire? Let us help you make that decision. Tom, thank you. I know we talked during the break, too, that 73% of people who work with a financial advisor, according to MoneyWise, wish they had started sooner. Don't have regrets. Pick up the phone, call this number, and start your very own journey to having that peace of mind that can come with having a solid plan in place. 866-709-1462. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.